Listen. Anybody here seen my old friend Martin? Can you tell me where the man gone? He freed a lot of people, but it seems a good die young. I turned my head one day and the man was gone. Lord, he was gone.
Welcome back to the Cristo Rey podcast. Ujel here. This Monday is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, a national holiday that was first signed into law by President Ronald Reagan 40 years ago this year. To celebrate this special milestone, Cristo Rey Columbus's Melanated and Educated Club has put together a presentation on the life and legacy of Martin Luther King. The students involved in this presentation are all seniors: Toniyah, Ahlaam, Rita, Rhodas, and Darius. All right, Melanated and Educated, take it away.
Okay, welcome everyone. So today, Melanated Educated, we are happy to have you all. We're going to be talking about continuing the dream, how MLK's teachings and legacy impact today. Okay, so first we're going to be talking about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s life and the hardships of his early life and activists of his time. Okay, so first we're going to start off with the background. So he was born January 15th, 1949 in Atlanta, Georgia, and he was sadly assassinated April 4th of 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee, at a hotel. And like that motel is actually, you can actually visit it today. They made a museum out of it. But okay, so he grew up in a middle-class family. He did not grow up to a wealthy family or anything. He grew up in pretty humble beginnings, working class. His father and his grandfather were Baptist preachers, so he grew up in a very religious household. Both his parents were college graduates, and the household that he grew up in, it wasn't really the best emotionally. He did kind of grow up with like a father who was very big on tough love, and he was very passionate about education, and he went to Morehouse at age 15 years old. He was very serious about education and loved education and reading and things, and he went on to get his doctorate degree in systematic theology from Boston College. And like I said, he went to Morehouse at 15, and he actually has several degrees, and the doctorate being in systematic theology, which is why we call him Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. today. And he was ordained to the Baptist ministry at age 19 on February 28th in 1948. And so, like I said, he was very religious and really big on his faith. And it wasn't until his later work, shortly after this time in his life, when he started to really be super heavy into civil rights.
Hey guys, it's Emily here. Have you noticed the Martin Luther King Jr. mural on the second floor? Here's Cristo Rey Columbus's Marketing and Operations Director, Mrs. Truth, to explain its origins.
In 1944, at just 15 years old, Martin Luther King Jr. enrolled at Morehouse College. During his junior year, he wrote an opinion piece on education for the campus newspaper, insisting that character and moral development are necessary in the advancement of intellect. An excerpt from this article now lives in the center of Cristo Rey Columbus, hand-painted by the faculty and staff as a message to the students.
The reason I'm excited to do this quote at Cristo Rey on the wall here is because we truly value deep education, and the function of education is important to all the things that we do. We believe in holistic education at Cristo Rey, intelligence plus character, and we want our students to see that every single day as they're walking down this hall, that's what we value here at Cristo Rey.
When we were trying to find something inspirational to motivate our students, faculty, and staff, we thought, what better person, what better quote to have than a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We are hoping that every day when our students walk in, they see this quote, and it's inspiring to them and to everybody that they meet.
Like the neighborhood that I mentioned earlier that he grew up in, he actually had to move several times, like throughout his life, due to racism. And so, yeah. And then here's a quote that I kind of wanted to insert from when he was accepting his Nobel Peace Prize in Norway of 1964. And he said, I have the audacity to believe that peoples everywhere can have 3 meals a day for their bodies, education and culture for their minds, and dignity, equality, and freedom for their spirits. Love that. Okay. And so some hardships that I condensed into this slide was obviously living in the segregated South in Georgia at the time. He faced a number of adversities from being in the height of Jim Crow and just obviously being down South. And he suffered from depression most of his early life due to just a number of factors, including, growing up in segregated South with racism and having, parents who were really tough on him and having his father's really tough on him. And like I said, he moved multiple times in his childhood to escape racist residents. And that would be anything from death threats to, just very, very, anything from death threats to just overall making his family feel uncomfortable when he lived. So he did move around a lot. And he had a rough childhood, like I said. His father was really big on tough love. And so he was really hard on himself and had super high expectations for Dr. Martin Luther King at the time. And he blamed himself for his grandmother's death. And like I said, he did face a number of adversities and did suffer depression in most of his life. And at one point in time had like an unsuccessful attempt at ending it. And so his testimony is really one of faith and really, like I said, one of faith and really believing in equality. And so, yeah, although he grew up in a rough childhood environment, like I said, mentioned, he did not allow that to stop him from pushing for his dreams, which is why he went on to school so early and got his doctorate. And he was really his leading light in his life, early life, before he began his most important work was his faith, because without his faith, he most likely would not have been the man that we know him as today.
Hey guys, it's Jade. This is a reminder that a service hour deadline is coming up. By January 23rd, you should have 40% of your service hours done. For freshmen, that's 4 hours. Sophomores, that's 6 hours. For juniors, that's 8 hours. And for seniors, that's 4 hours. If you have any questions or if you're struggling coming up with ideas of where to volunteer, contact your theology teacher or Mr. Carrillo. They're more than happy to help.
So how did Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. become a civil rights leader? So Dr. King became a pastor of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church at the age of 25. He was on the committee from the Birmingham African American community that looked into Claudette Colvin's case, and Claudette Colvin is a 15-year-old black schoolgirl in Montgomery, Alabama. She was sitting in a seat that she was not allowed to sit in because of Jim Crow laws. When a white man got on the bus and wanted to sit where she was sitting, Claudette refused to give up her seat. The local chapter of the NAACP did consider using her case to challenge segregation laws, but because she was young and pregnant at the time, they decided to not use her case since it would attract too much negative attention. 9 months later, there was a similar incident, but with Rosa Parks, and she was arrested. The two incidents led to the Montgomery bus boycott, which was planned by E.D. Nixon, president of the Alabama chapter of NAACP at the time, and led by Dr. King. The boycott lasted for 382 days, and because of the two incidents, the Montgomery bus boycott was in action. And on the right is actually the bus boycott that was passed, and it's still there to this day if you went to Alabama. So what did he stand for? So Dr. King, he stood for nonviolent resistance for equal rights. So desegregation, labor rights, and the right to vote are just a few examples of what he stood for. The picture on the top right-hand corner is the protest of voting rights, and he also advocated for the civil rights reform and as well as social and economic justice.
Hi everyone, it's Koya.
Hey Sean here.
And Jay Sean.
Are you interested in science?
Are you looking to join a club?
Then why not join Science Club?
A club about science.
Right after school this Wednesday, Science Club will be meeting in room 317 for a special activities run by science majors at OSU. Any questions, see Miss Ballman.
Until then, stay sciencey.
Next up is King's activism, Martin Luther King Jr.'s activism, which we wanted to talk about his organizing and change making. As we know that one of the largest parts of Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy that he left behind was that his work as a brilliant strategic and tactical organizer who led cutting-edge campaigns to deliver civil rights. One of the biggest things about MLK's campaigns was that they were always local in scope and national in implication. And by that, we mean that he believed that no American is an outsider when it comes to community to aid the cause of freedom and justice. Anytime he entered a city was usually by invitation from an ongoing local campaign. King would then collaborate with local leaders, which was essential for both collaborating with them and then for building sustainable power and just to make sure that he could come up to those local leaders themselves and make sure that change was implemented after he left that area. Next, he developed innovative tactics in service of a cohesive strategy. He spent his career developing a strategy of nonviolent resistance to persuade his primary target, which were moderate, movable white people, that civil rights were necessary. Martin Luther King Jr. describes the 1962 Alabama movement campaign's use of direct action expressed through mass demonstrations like jail-ins, sit-ins, wait-ins, and kneel-ins, political action, and boycotts, and legal actions to combat segregation in the Georgian city. King would turn the political pressure up and down depending on where and when he marched, and using jailing as a tactic. This included a strategy around when to reject bail, which means remaining in jail for movement solidarity, and when to raise sufficient bail funds so staff and volunteers can carry on critical work. Some of King's strategies and tactics evolved from his failures. When Albany ended without major victories due to what Martin Luther King Jr. called quote-unquote vague campaign goals, King designed the Birmingham campaign to focus on the desegregation of downtown stores. The famous 1963 March on Washington was a tactic with some particular goal in mind, to show white Americans what civil rights movement looked like. For millions of white Americans tuning in on national television, the march's well-dressed crowds and remarkable oratory ran completely counter to the fabrications they'd long been told about the Black civil rights movement, thus shifting their opinions on civil rights. Next, we know that King invested in others, in the leadership of other people. An organizer invests in the leadership of other people, and King was committed to providing Black people with a new sense of dignity and destiny in his campaigns. In King's campaigns, mass mobilization was an occasional tactic, but more essential was developing core volunteers steeped and trained in the philosophy of nonviolence, deeply committed to the movement. The 1963 Birmingham desegregation campaign, for example, launched with only 65 people, but then each had to pledge to serve up to 5 days in jail, which just shows how invested King was within the leadership of his community and the people that he was that was in his campaigns as well, and how dedicated they were to the movement that they were being able to serve 5 days in jail for. King was also willing to share the spotlight. At the height of the Albany movement, he remained in prison in solidarity with other protesters rather than appearing on the quote-unquote Meet the Press, which was an opportunity he passed to deputy.
Hi guys, it's Rebecca. We hope you're enjoying this special presentation from Melanated Educated. Right now you're listening to Rita, of course. Not only is she a big part of Melanated Educated, but she's also Student Council Vice President, the head of Social Justice and Activism Club, and lots of other things. In fact, if something is happening at the school, it's likely that Rita is involved. Fun fact, due to her many contributions to Cristo Rey culture, Rita has appeared as a guest on the podcast more than any other student in Cristo Rey history. Like, wow. That being said, it is my pleasure to announce that Rita is one of the 2 Cristo Rey Columbus seniors to receive a prestigious Questbridge National Match Scholarship. Here is the other recipient, Valentina, to explain what that means for them.
My name is Valentina, and I participated in the Questbridge National College Match, and I matched with Denison in Granville, Ohio. It's been a really great opportunity. I will get a full 4-year scholarship that covers tuition, room and board, and a meal plan. So the national match is a scholarship for seniors applying to the Questbridge partner schools, and through that you get a full 4-year scholarship to cover the costs of college tuition. Questbridge also has a scholars program for juniors, which I think is a really good opportunity to take advantage of to get started on that application. I think all of our students, juniors and seniors, upcoming, if you want to learn more about the Questbridge program, look on their website. I think it's a really great opportunity, and I hope more of our students will apply and get the opportunity to participate in this program.
Next, King embraced politics as an essential to making change. His political savvy was essential to success. He conversed regularly with Vice President Richard Nixon during the Eisenhower administration and built direct lines to Kennedy and the Johnson White Houses. And while he was never afraid to criticize even his closest political allies, he also was quick to issue a telegram of appreciation whenever a politician did the right thing. So his contribution to our society was heavily influenced by the organizing and advocacy he did and brought millions to do.
All right. Hello, everybody. And now we have people who are inspired by MLK. We first have Ineva Mae Pittman, who was an activist and NAACP member who marched with Dr. King. She said, "I felt free. And with all these people from all across the country and the world, everybody was friendly towards each other." And then we have Frankie Adam Johnson, who was an activist and a teacher who marched with Dr. King as well. He said, "I felt that somehow we had achieved whatever this freedom meant, that had been achieved there in Washington. We had marched, listened to speeches, and been moved by the great MLK." And the third person we have is Forrest Whitaker, who was an actor. He also said, "We followed him because he was holding your hope. These are few people in history who take that position that allows people to follow and change, who represent something powerful. He did it in this country and made people walk with him towards a better life." And last but not least, we have Barack Obama, who was the 44th president of the United States. He said he was the 26th when the Montgomery bus boycott began. He started small, rallying others who believed their efforts mattered, a permanent inspiration for the rest of us to keep pushing towards justice.
Hi guys, so now we're going to talk about how you can use Martin Luther King's teachings and pass them down. So Martin Luther King's ability to bond people together and getting people to see themselves as part of the same shared struggle was incredible. So continue fighting for the change, whether that's spreading awareness, especially because of how big social media is now. It's really easy to start a hashtag, start a post, make a YouTube channel, just something to spread awareness. Or you can go directly out in our community to positively impact something. So a protest, anything like that. And don't be afraid, because at the end of the day, when you are doing something positive that affects your community directly. And after all this, go back and look at some things he did and see how you could apply that to the change that you want to make.
Hi guys, it's Naomi. Last year, the podcast's own IC participated in the Martin Luther King Jr. Oratory Speech Contest. Here's Mr. Rose with some more information.
Hey, Cristo Rey family. It's Mr. Rose, aka Mr. It's Okay, with an exciting announcement. I am so happy and honored to announce that our very own IC placed third in the senior division during the Martin Luther King Oratory Speech Contest. To qualify, she had to compose her own speech on what it means and or looks like to help your neighbor. After writing the speech and submitting it, she had less than a week to memorize it. The speech had to be as close to 5 minutes as possible. Points were deducted for going over or ending too early. The speech couldn't be written down, and she was only allowed a note card to use for reminders. She had to recite this speech in front of judges, family, and other students, so as you can imagine, that could be quite nerve-wracking. If you happen to see her, please give her a fist bump or say congratulations. She has represented the quality and talent that walks these halls. Many of you also possess these gifts. If you ask her, she will tell you that she was not the most confident going into this competition, but this is a testament to the importance of pushing yourself past your own self-doubt and misconceptions. You never know what you are capable of until you try. Again, please help me in lifting up and taking time to celebrate one of our very own Cougars' accomplishment. And now, here is a recording of Icy's speech.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen and judges. My name is Icy and I attend Cristo Rey Columbus High School. First off, I want to first take the time to thank my coach and God for assisting me in getting here today. But most of all, I want to thank my parents for birthing me and raising me to be the person I am today. I truly believe without them, I would be nothing. Aside from that, I would like to take the time to appreciate you for inviting me to speak and to take the time to listen to me. I am truly honored and delighted to be here today. The topic of my speech is my brother's keeper. Many people think instantly that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is the person who campaigned to eradicate segregation and prejudice in the United States. But he was so much more. Dr. King exemplified what it means to be brave and lived by faith. His impact is actually one of the reasons why we battle for what we believe in and what we desire. Due to his example, people of color have the courage and perseverance to create and or participate in a number of movements and protests. Dr. King is one of, if not the most important figure in American society. He is one of the reasons why I, a Black Muslim female, is here to give you my speech. Due to sacrifices and others like him, I can now wake up in the morning alongside of other students in my school without the fear of being told I don't belong there. Dr. King gave his life so that we can live ours in peace. He preached love and without resorting to violence made one of the most contributions to American society today. We can admire his tenacity, perseverance, and faith. Despite all the challenges he has faced, he has never given up, but instead worked harder than before. He didn't give in to fear or use as an excuse to stop fighting. He was not only a man who knew how to utilize his words to gain people's attention, but he was the epitome of a man who modeled it as well. Some may say that Dr. King failed to achieve his goal of ending racism. And while that may be true, because of him, we're able to have many rights that we do today. People of color has come a long way, and he has inspired and continues to inspire people to keep fighting. You may applaud Dr. King for setting an example by sacrificing his life to establish true equality for all, particularly in the lives of African Americans. No, he didn't achieve his goals of ending racism, but he has laid the foundation for us to build on. He preached a message of standing up for what's right, faith, passion, courage, confidence, and most of all, peace. In addition to advocating for all, from his most famous speech, "I Have a Dream," to his many marches, he has inspired many people to come out their comfort zones and speak up when something isn't right, no matter what the consequences may be. He has exemplified and fought for what the Declaration of Independence should have meant in practice. All men are created equal. Dr. King's soul and body might be dead, but his spirit is still alive and thriving. Dr. King started doing the hard work of this process. Now it's up to us to use his vision to the finish line. Racism is far from being abolished, and there is so many work to do. There's ways I can make an impact. For starters, I can take the initiative to spread awareness and stand strong to defend it whenever possible. Not only physically being my brother's keeper and taking a stand, but spiritually and emotionally being motivated to fight the good fight. Our skin color may differ from each other, but underneath it all, we are essentially the same exact in the inside. We as individuals have no right to judge others on their skin color. Only the Creator of all has this authority. The number of ways to be our brother's keepers is endless, but the most one I want to highlight today is using our rights of exercising to vote, no matter to the efforts of gerrymandering. I'm not referring to using violence to topple the system. I am simply saying taking small actions that will make a big difference. Voting in minor elections in your state or community, and also in presidential elections, was not a privilege, but also rights that others before us didn't have and fought for us to get. So why not use them? In closing, it's vital to remember Dr. King has provided the groundwork for us to build on. And if we follow in his footsteps and use his motivations, we can also make a great impact as well. I leave you all with this. Don't wait for others to initiate change. Be the change you want to see.
Here are some ways you can take action to celebrate the legacy of Martin Luther King. You can advocate for voting rights, support organizations that focus on social and racial justice. You can also support Black-owned businesses, be an ally, speak up, ask and listen, show up. Ways to show up can be like many local cities, they have MLK March or volunteer activities to go to.
Yep, and that's it. Thank you guys so much for listening to Melanated Educated's meeting on Martin Luther King Jr. and his legacy. Hopefully you guys can come out of this meeting, out of this podcast, and continue to research MLK and his legacy and everything that he stands for, and learn about other ways to be able to take action outside of, the internet and just, listening to this. Thank you guys so much for listening, and thank you.
And if you want more of this, come to our meetings, Melanated Educated, where we discuss things like this all the time.
Yes. And please come to Melanated Educated's meetings. We have meetings every other Wednesday from 3:15 to 4 in Miss Links' room 215. Toniyah, do you want to say anything before we end the recording?
I just want to say thank you so much for listening to our meeting. Thank you so much for listening to our meeting. And just continue to, take action and to, continue to carry on Martin Luther King his legacy, because, obviously we're always going to have to fight for social and racial injustice, so always make sure that you always have, a just reason and an empowered reason behind everything that you do. And to support Black, period. Like we said earlier on this last slide, just continue to never stop fighting for what's right.
Period. That's so beautiful. Okay, thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Mr. Corrigan here. Now, usually we would end the show with the Cristo Rey podcast theme song, but I thought today it would be appropriate to let Martin Luther King himself have the last word. The night before his assassination, Dr. King spoke to a crowd at Mason Temple in Memphis, Tennessee. These are his last words spoken in a public setting before his death.
Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming